Hello, good morning, and welcome to today's episode of Modesty's Mortgage Masterclass. This is session number 21. Now, Modesty's Mortgage Masterclass, which happens every Wednesday live here on Facebook. And this is a time and a day that we come together here to learn, to educate ourselves on everything mortgage and properties as pertains to UK property industry. So for all those who are interested in knowing more about mortgages, whether you are looking to take out a mortgage or whether you already have a mortgage and wish to educate yourself more on what's happening in the mortgage markets, this is the right place to be and this is the right time to be here. I remain your man again, Ike Naumezudike, the Director of Modesty Financial Consultants Limited, based in Luton here in the United Kingdom. And as I've always said, I'm a mortgage broker looking after my clients who are interested in purchasing properties here in the UK using a mortgage. And we offer financial advice and financial consulting services as well. So I'm here to talk about mortgages every Wednesday. How are you doing? I hope your day has been going on well so far, and I hope your week has been going on well so far. It's midweek already. Yes, and then we're just a couple of days away from the weekend again, and then we start all over again. So today, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about a question that a lot of my clients have been asking me recently, and I felt, well, why not share this same question with everyone who listens to me on this program and let everybody benefit from that knowledge and from the answers to this question. And that question has been, post-lockdown, is this the right time to buy property? Should I buy a property now? I've had that question asked me a couple of times, and I've answered that question a couple of times. So today I'm going to be talking about that, but as usual, as we do on this program every day, we update ourselves with the latest information as per the property and mortgage market. So what's been going on in the property and mortgage markets? Now listen very carefully, because some of the things that are happening that I'm going to talk about now might be a clue, to you in terms of answering that question, whether this is the right time to buy a property, whether you should buy a property now or not. You might make up your mind by after listening to the mortgage updates, even before I get to the main topic of the day. All right, so basically, the figures from the HMRC is telling us something this time around. The figures from the HMRC suggest that there is a gradual return from the lockdown freeze by the property market or by the housing market, because every month the HMRC releases figures on transaction levels as per properties that have been sold or property transactions that have taken place. So HMRC figures for June suggest that there's an improvement in the month of June from the month of May in terms of property transactions that have taken place. So these are provisional figures anyway, but those provisional residential transaction figures shows that there were over 63,000 residential property transactions that took place in June, which is nearly 32% higher than the volume of transactions that took place in May. Remember that the property market was eased on the 13th of May. So by the end of June, there has been 32% more property transaction volumes, according to the figures by the HMRC. These are residential figures anyway. Now, non-residential figures suggest that there were over 7,000 transactions that took place in non-residential property transactions that were carried out in June. Again, this suggests a 31% figure more than what happened in May. But overall, in terms of the volume of transactions, compare that year on year, the residential figures compared to this time last year, it's still like 35% lower than the figures last year compared to this time last year. And in the non-residential figures, there's still like 27% gap, like there's still a 27% drop compared to this time last year. But month on month, we can see a gradual return to something that looks like normal. So there's been a gradual improvement. 32%, to be honest with you, it's a significant improvement, not just gradual, but that's compared to maybe. Remember that the property sector was eased halfway through May. So again, as impressive as this figure looks, the non-residential figures is still about 27% lower than the figures compared to this time last year. So we have to bear that in mind, that there's still some catching up to do if we're going to be doing a year-on-year analysis of this. Now, talking about analysis, let's look at these figures and see what do they tell us about the property market and what do they actually suggest. You see, looking at these figures, it exposes the abrupt interruption that has happened in the property market, that the lockdown brought upon the property market. It just tells you what would have been if not for the lockdown in the property market. But then, funny enough, that interruption happened, and immediately after the lockdown, look at the way property transactions are shooting up on monthly basis. So there's some kind of it's a little bit unusual. And hey, one moment the property market is halted, the next moment it's taking off again. So it just tells you that the property market was doing very well before the lockdown, and then the lockdown happened and people waited. Immediately the lockdown was lifted from the property market, activities resumed. There were outstanding transactions that were supposed to be concluded, and sales that was supposed to be concluded pre-lockdown. But then lockdown halted all that. The moment lockdown was lifted, people wanted to get on with it and get it completed. So we are seeing that effect now being reported in the volume of property transactions that have taken place. Now, even though we are still far away from pre-lockdown levels, surely we're making progress. And these figures can only get better due to the stamp duty holiday. Remember, we talked about the stamp duty holiday 2 weeks ago, and we talked about it last week as well. We really dwelled on the stamp duty, and we dug deep into the stamp duty holiday and its implication and what it means to the property market. We dealt justice to that last week. So you can go to my Facebook page and have a look at the video from last week, and it's going to be up on YouTube very soon as well. So the stamp duty holiday has given the property market a serious boost, and people are getting on now with property deals because it's a time limited holiday, it's a time limited window, and it's really getting people moving. So, but there is a little bit of warning from experts in the property industry about I think there's a rumor about the government increasing the capital gains tax on principal home sale, and there's a little bit of warning to say that, look, if this happened, this could basically swiftly wipe off any gains that have been made as a result of the stamp duty holiday. Rather, the call is being made for the government to kind of extend the generosity, the stamp duty generosity, to the high-end properties, so that the playing field will be a little bit level at least, because at the moment the high-end properties cost a lot more. Hi Chidebere, good afternoon, good morning, thanks for coming on. So the high-end properties are going to pay more tax, as it stands, going by the stamp duty revolution or stamp duty holiday. The high-end properties are going to be paying more in stamp duty. So there's call from the experts to say to the government, hey, please extend that generosity to the high-end properties so that we get activities moving at that end as well, because there are people at the high end who actually want to move on as well. So if that happens, people could want to upgrade to high-end properties, and they wouldn't be scared of the amount of tax that they have to pay. So there's an air of expectation that in the autumn budget this might happen. The government might kind of extend that generosity to the high-end properties. But wait and see. All we can do is make predictions. But from the feelers we're getting from the property sector, it looks like in the autumn budget that might happen. The government might change their mind. We don't know yet, but we'll see. So, and also with the opening of the property market in Scotland and in Wales, these figures can only get better as well, because remember that these figures are just figures from England. You know, the properties market is not even fully up to 1 month open in Scotland, and in Wales there are still some restrictions around the property market. Some lockdown restrictions around the property market. So Scotland and Wales, the two markets, are yet to even contribute to the whole of British property markets. So, and it's only expected to get better by the time these two markets open up fully and get into full swing, and then we'll see a much better transaction levels and volumes. So, but hey, these are provisional figures, right? It then means that there might still be some transactions that are being processed by the HMRC, which are taking time and are slowly coming on because of COVID and because of the pandemic. So the process and the speed is a little bit slower. So there might even be more transactions to be recorded in the June transaction. We don't know yet. But if that happens, it means that it's going to close the gap, between what happened last year and what happened this year. So the year-on-year comparison might not be that bad after all, if it happens to be that these transactions will come in and they will boost the numbers again. So and also, you see, surviving lockdown may have given people the impetus, to move on with life, because when they realize that, look, I'm still alive. Over 40 something thousand people died in the UK at the peak of it. I'm still alive. So what stops me from going out there and being adventurous and pursuing my dreams, buying my dream home and getting on and moving on with life? So this might also be part of the reason, including the stamp duty holiday as well, why people are just getting on with, and these transaction volumes are getting better and better as the month goes by. So people might just be thinking this is the right time to get a new home, especially people who have been living in flats with little or no outdoor space. A lot of them have been thinking, hang on a minute, we've been stuck in this flat for 3 months with no outdoor space at all. This time around, if I'm going to look for a home, I'm going to look for a house, and they just go out there and they're ready to splash the cash. So with these positive signs of transactions picking up, maybe this is a sign that the property market is doing better than we even expected. And it's an open invitation to lenders to say, hey, come join the party. People want to buy properties. Are you willing to lend? Are you happy to lend? Do not stop holding back. Come on, come and support people to buy properties and lend money, because at the moment lenders are still holding back a little bit. A lot of restrictions around lending and the criteria, the kind of properties, the choice of properties, the kind of people they lend to these days. A lot of restrictions still abound among lenders. They are still like holding back a little bit because they are still skeptical about the economy and what the economy presents. But you can see that the attitude of people is like, we want to get on. If we can find the right mortgage product, we want to buy properties. So that's basically an open invitation to lenders to say, hey, come on and join the party. Okay, so the second update I want to bring to you today is around another index from Move, another figure that came out from Rightmove. Rightmove is the biggest property portal in the UK. I think they recorded about 5.2 million visitors to Rightmove website sometime in June, immediately after the lockdown. So it's the biggest property portal where people go to search for properties, people go to sell properties, and people do property transactions. So Rightmove, the figures released by Rightmove recently shows that there's been a record high increase in the prices of properties that are listed on Rightmove. So they've seen an increase from an average listing price of 312,000 to an average listing price of 320,000 pounds, and this represents like a 2.4% increase. So that's a record high increase, in the average asking price, for properties that have come onto Rightmove. So that index also shows that there's been a 3.7% annual increase as well. By this time last year, the 3.7% annual increase when you compare the average listing price that's right now compared to last year. It's 3.7%. So that 2.4% increase is month on month. But then if you compare it year on year, it's about 3.7%, and that is the highest annual increase since December 2016, according to Rightmove Property Price Index. So at the beginning of July, according to Rightmove, property inquiries were up 75% compared to this time last year. These are crazy figures coming out from Rightmove, 75% increase on property inquiries compared to this time last year. And that number, shows you how people are very keen to get onto their property deals and get them done. And at the beginning of July, that was even before the stamp duty holiday was announced. Okay, the stamp duty holiday was announced on the 8th of July. So, and Rightmove, sorry, not stamp duty. I'm getting too cozy with stamp duty these days, So, Rightmove numbers shows that monthly sales, according to Rightmove, is up 15%. And in the 5 days from the dates of the announcement of the stamp duty holiday, sales were 35% higher than the equivalent time last year. So the stamp duty holiday was announced on the 8th of July. Within 5 days of that announcement being made, there was a 35% increase in property sales compared to equivalent of that date last year. 35% up compared to equivalent dates last year. And then so you can see how people are really keen on getting on with the property deals, and the stamp duty holiday has done a lot to really kind of inject so much passion into people to get on and desire to people to go and do this thing and get this property deal done right now. So stock levels, according to Rightmove, I mean, like when we say stock levels, I mean the stocks, the property stock, the number of properties on the market, the property stock levels. They are, however, 13% down, across the whole of Britain when you compare it to this time last year. Yeah, but bear in mind that Scotland and Wales are yet to contribute to the stock levels, and that means that number is not really that bad. If it's just 13% down compared to this time last year in terms of stock, considering that the market was short, practically short, and brought to a halt for 3 months, and it's, if the difference between the stock levels now and last year is just about 13%, with Scotland and Wales not contributing to the stock levels, that's not a bad figure at all. So it's bad, but not really that bad. It means that the stock levels are coming up again, and the stock levels are increasing, on a daily basis. So what does these figures mean to us? You see, what it means is the unexpected mini boom that is happening in the property market is still happening. People weren't too sure how the property market was going. Hi, Ken. Good morning, bro. Thanks for coming on. People are getting on with the property deals, right? Now, people weren't too sure what's going to happen to the property market after the lockdown. But there is this unexpected mini boom that's happening now, in the property market. And that's what this Rightmove figure is telling us now. Imagine, recording the highest average price increase, or average listing price or asking price, since December 2016, after the pandemic. So, and because Scotland is still yet fully to open their property market, is just under a month now that the property market has been open in Scotland, and in Wales some restrictions still are in place in the property market. So these figures look like they're going to continue going up, and they're going to continue increasing. when these two nations are fully up and running. Yeah, so and there is 75% increase in new buyer inquiries year on year. That is a fantastic figure. I mean, that's just astronomical. You know, I myself, I'm just I'm short of words. I don't know how to describe that. After 3 months of the property market being almost on shutdown, we're 75% higher than this time compared to this time last year on property inquiries. It just shows you the direction that the property market is heading. You know, and usually in the UK, the spring time is a time for property market to boom. That's when people begin to make serious decisions on financial issues like buying a property or moving homes. And the pandemic came upon us in spring and halted the spring market. And the spring property market is always a period in the property market that property people who are players in the property industry are always looking forward to. But the pandemic came in the spring and halted that. So these figures now show that people are now back to where they were pre that lockdown. The market is now taking off from where it left off pre-lockdown. So this is partly due to the stamp duty holiday, basically. But remember that some of these figures relate to activities in June, and the stamp duty holiday came in July. But then also contributing to this is people actually reappraising and reviewing their lifestyles and their homes and thinking, do we need to upgrade? Do we need to do? And I mentioned before people who lived in flats. There are lots of people who used to live in flats who now are looking to buy homes that have outdoor spaces. And these things are really contributing to the increasing activities in the property market. So increase in the asking prices as contained in the Rightmove report suggests the direction of house prices. Okay, and it just shows that the house prices are gently rising rather than falling. And in the coming months, expect this to become even more evident by the time more reports from Rightmove starts coming out, especially with the stamp duty holiday that's been announced by the Chancellor. So Britain is certainly moving again, as this report suggests. And the number of properties, according to Rightmove, that are coming to the market rose by 11%, compared to this time last year. That's the number of properties being brought to the market, rose by 11% compared to this time last year. And remember, this is still without the Scottish and Welsh markets contributing to this period in full. So the total available stock now, according to Rightmove, is also recovered because it's just 13% down from last year. So that really shows that there is improvement in that respect. Another evidence of the markets being in full blown, of the market really recovering, is the proportion of market properties that came to the market within 1 month of the property lockdown being lifted. You see, Rightmove report showed that nearly 41,000 out of over 92,000 properties that were put on the market, like new listings that came onto Rightmove, 41,000 out of over 92,000 of those new listings in the first month of them coming onto the markets got sold, right? So they found a buyer within that first month of those properties coming to about 44% of new listings found a buyer. That's just crazy. It was just like people were just waiting for this thing to end. And the moment the lockdown was lifted, and I said there were deals that were put on hold pre-lockdown. So 44% of new listings that came onto the market found a buyer within the 1 month of them coming onto the market. As at this time last year, that figure was 34%. So you can see how the increase and how the improvement is coming on. So up and down the country, estate agents are reporting the same thing that I'm saying to you, that estate agents have never been this busy for some time. This is the busiest a lot of them have been for years. Enquiries are flooding in, especially with the stamp duty holiday as well. Enquiries are flooding in, and we're also seen it as mortgage brokers. We're getting record levels of enquiries from people who want to take out mortgages, people who really want to get onto the property ladder, who want to move, especially with the stamp duty holiday being announced. So there's serious activities going on, and there's increasing activities going on in the property market. In fact, one estate agent in Exeter, listen to this report. Hi, Miri Malugo, good afternoon. Thanks for coming on, my brother. One estate agent in Exeter reported that in the last 9 weeks, this is mind-boggling, in the last 9 weeks, right, their agency in Exeter and East Devon have either agreed, sold, or completed properties worth, wait for it, worth 50 million pounds in values in the last 9 weeks, right? They've either sold, agreed, or completed on properties worth over 50 million pounds in values in the last 9 weeks. That's just an indication of how busy estate agents have been, and how much activity that's going on in the property market. So this is what's, these reports show us, that, people are getting on with life and things are happening in the property market. Nobody's waiting for anything. People are just doing what they need to do and what they ought to do. So that's the mortgage update for today, right? Remember I said at the beginning that the main topic today is, should I or should I not buy property now post-lockdown? And I said, listen to these mortgage updates. You might even make up your mind before I discuss the issue after the updates. But I don't want to make up your mind for you, and I don't want to advise you about anything. But I want to answer this question that a lot of my clients have been asking me. Ikenna, post-lockdown, should I or should I not buy a property? There have been several views by several people in several fields about what's going to happen to the property market. And I don't want to, base my views on speculation or what people just think. I want to base those things, I want to base my views or whatever I'm going to say today on objective, factual information based on what we've been seeing, what we've been reading, and what we've been witnessing. Okay? But I'm not here to answer yes or no to that question, right? I'm not here to answer yes or no to that question. But I'm going to answer those questions with 5 questions. Okay. Some people will say this is a typical Nigerian or African attitude. They always answer questions with questions. You see, have you ever greeted a Nigerian, in the pidgin English? There is this, our native Nigerian pidgin English, where we say, you say, over how far now? And what you hear on the other end of the phone is, over, you how far? You say how far, and the person will say how far. So, sometimes we answer questions with questions. And somebody will just say, hey, where are you going? And they'll ask you, why are you asking me? Hey, where are you going? I say, why are you asking? So I'm going to answer those questions with questions. And those questions are questions that only you can answer. And if you can answer them, then the answer is right there before you. So should I buy property now? 5 questions to answer. Number 1 question is, can you get a mortgage? Yeah? That's number 1 question you need to answer. Can you get a mortgage? Like I said, because of this pandemic, a lot of lenders are restricting and tightening their criteria for borrowing more. So less and less people are getting qualified to get mortgages these days, especially around affordability and with a lot of people being furloughed. But even at that, a record number of people also as well who have their deposits sorted are getting mortgages. So there are lenders who are ready to lend even if you are on furloughed scheme. So it then means that affordability might still be on your side. It might still favor you even though you are furloughed, because there are lenders who can lend to you based on your furloughed income. So can you get a mortgage? If your income can carry the mortgage now, that means you can get a mortgage. If the lenders are willing to lend to you even though you are furloughed, it means you can still get a mortgage. So some people might say, while I still can, why don't I go get a mortgage and buy a property? Because I don't know what's going to happen when the furloughed scheme finishes by October. So now that lenders can still lend, some lenders will lend you based on your furloughed income without asking whether you are going to get back to work after your furloughed scheme or not. While some lenders will seek reassurance from your employer that they are going to take you back after the furloughed scheme has ended and you're going to come back and return to work, with that assurance that they want also to know when you are likely going to go back to work. But some lenders are just happy to say, hey, if you're on furloughed scheme and you're earning, we're happy to lend. Some lenders will lend you on a reduced basis based on your furloughed income. So if your furloughed income is 80%, they will just base that on 80% of your income, right? And then use it to determine how much you can borrow. So there are lots of factors around getting a mortgage these days, and also the level of deposits that you have. Some lenders, in fact, to find a 90% loan to value mortgage now is becoming more and more difficult. Although some lenders are beginning to come back into the 90% lending, I mean, the 95% mortgage is almost completely gone out of the way. If it's going to come back, we don't know when. But 90% is about the highest level of mortgage you can get in the market right now. But even that, the products are very, very limited. You get more options in the 85% loan to value kind of market. So it means that you have to come up with at least 15% deposit to get a better chance and better product options in terms of what's available to you. So the number one question to answer in the question of is this a good time to buy a property is, can you get a mortgage? If you can answer that question, if you can get a mortgage, well, that's one part of it considered. Number two question that you need to answer is, what's the immediate use of the property you're looking to buy? What's the immediate use of the property you're looking to buy? Are you buying for residential purposes, or are you buying for investment purposes? What is the immediate use? If you're buying for residential purposes, refer to the first question, can you get a mortgage? And if you can get a mortgage and you're buying for residential purposes, then that is something you need to consider. If you really, really need to move, I don't think you have any reason to be waiting to see whether the property market is going to fall or whether it's going to rise and all that, because the answer is that we don't know. But then some people just don't want to buy now and then regret later. But then the use of the property to you and its immediate use to you will also contribute to whether you decide to buy that property. Then do you really need it then? If you really need to move then, it's something, if the immediate need for that property is urgent, if the immediate need for that property is very vital to your well-being and your welfare as an individual, then it's up to you to make up your mind whether it is something that you need to do now or you can afford to put it off later. So the immediate use of that property is very vital in making that decision. If you are buying it as an investment, right, do you need to buy that property as an investment now, based on the fact that, okay, I have the money now and I want to invest now and I want to start now to earn and I want to start the process now. So look at the immediate need of the property that you're buying. Is it for residential or for buy-to-let or investment purposes? Or you're buying it as an owner-occupier. Maybe you have a business that you want to set up, and you need to buy a property to set that business up there. It's up to you. So when you consider that immediate need, it will now tell you whether you actually need to put this, you can afford to put this off or put this away or not. So if that immediate need is urgent, if that immediate need is vital to your living and to your existence and to your welfare and well-being, if that immediate need makes sense to you, that look, I can't afford to put this off any longer, I need the property now, you know what the answer is, right? Number 3 question that you need to answer whether you need to buy now is about the deal you are getting on that property. Is the deal you are getting good enough by your valuation and your research? The deal you are getting on that property, is it good enough by virtue of your research and your valuation? Right. If that deal is good enough for you, just make sure you've done enough research, around the properties in that area, how much they are selling, how much they have sold, what has sold around there, and the area you're looking to buy, is the property overpriced or not? There are properties in the market now that are overpriced anyway, and there are properties that when when they come onto the market, they go very quickly because they are priced properly and the demand is there and all. In fact, there are some properties that come to the market and people put in offers that are far higher than the asking price because they are really desperate to get that property. That tells you how they feel about that property, that area, and how relevant it is to their dream and to what they want to achieve. You see, so it's not just about the property price. It's not just about saying, am I overpaying or whether property price, because these questions are being asked by people, especially based on property price. Oh, I hear that property prices are going to crash. I hear that properties are going to fall by 5, 10, some even 15% and all that. And they say, is this the right time to buy? So the reason I'm putting these questions is for you to know that beyond price, there are other things to consider. Beyond price, there are other factors that make up the buying decision. It's not just about the price. Okay, so the deal you are getting on that property, is it good enough by your valuation and your research? You've got to do your research. You've got to get make sure that you know the property you are buying, you know the area, you know the price history of properties around that area, and compare it with the asking prices of similar properties around that area, and see what's asking prices and sold. Rightmove have all this information. If you go on Rightmove, you can get information on sold price houses around that area. You can get information on asking prices around that area. Do your research. If the deal is good enough for you based on your valuation of that property and that research, the decision is for you to make. But if within you feel that this property is too expensive and it's not worth it, the price of anything is what somebody is willing to pay for it. The value of anything or the price of anything is what somebody is willing to pay for. We have seen people buy artwork on auction, for tens of millions of dollars or pounds, right? That is the value they attach to that thing. That is how much they value that. So whatever you are willing to pay for something, that is the value or the price of that thing. So it's not there. It's not about. That's why people putting an offer for properties beyond or above the asking prices, because they think that property is worth more than that. It's also about the emotional attachments people have. It might be an area that somebody is looking to desperately get a house in because there is a school around there that they want their daughter or their son or their children to attend. So they are willing to pay anything to get a property in that area. So you cannot put a price to something like that. As far as that person is concerned, his or her child getting into that school is worth paying any price. And they'll go there and they'll buy that property and they'll risk it, and just because of that. So there are a few things that are considered when it comes to deciding whether it's a good time to buy or a bad time to buy. Number 4 question is, what do you stand to lose if you don't buy that property? What do I stand to lose if I don't buy this property? Okay, if it's an investment property that I'm looking to buy and I don't buy this property now, what do I stand to lose? First of all, it means I will not be able to conclude this property on time, meaning that I'm not going to be getting the rental income on time. So if I put it away for another month, I have lost potentially 1 month rental income. If I put it away for another 2 months, I have lost 2 months rental income. If I put it away for another 3 months, I've lost 3 months rental income. Can I afford to do that? Is it worth losing it? If I lose this 3 months rental income, is it worth it compared to the risk of overpaying for this property? So you compare that. What do I stand to lose if I don't buy this property now? Or if it's a residential property, like I mentioned, your child getting into a school around there. If I don't buy this property now, will I risk my child not getting into that school that I want them to get into? If I don't buy this property now, will I not be able to get a mortgage or get a better mortgage deal than I've got now? If I delay it now and I don't buy this property now, have I lost out on a property that I would have felt very comfortable in? What do I stand to lose? Or I may not even have to lose anything. If I don't buy it now, the property is not, I'm not so enthusiastic about this property that I will be desperate to buy it. There is a property you will see, you'll be dreaming about that property when you go to sleep. You can't sleep. All you'll be thinking in your head is that property, imagining yourself living there, imagining life in and out of that property and all that. You'll be so attached to it that if you lose it, you think that you've lost a vital opportunity here. So it's about the opportunity costs of buying that property, or the opportunity cost of not buying that property. If I don't buy this property, what will it cost me? What will I stand to lose? What will be the opportunity cost of not buying that property? If that opportunity costs to you outweighs the value, the advantages of buying that property, you make the decision. If the opportunity costs underweighs the value of that property, you make the decision, because I cannot I cannot give you the value of your emotional calculation besides the financial calculation. There's financial loss, emotional loss, psychological loss. There are certain things that you cannot place money, or you cannot place value or monetary value on. Okay, so number 5 question that you need to answer when you want to decide whether to buy now or not is, are you feeling confident about your future financial situation? Are you feeling confident about your future financial situation? With what's going on now and lots of job losses being announced by big corporations and big companies, a lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are on furlough at the moment, with the government paying 80% of their wages. Some their companies are making up the remaining 20%. Some their companies are not making up the remaining 20%. They are just living on the government 80%. Some are not even sure whether they are going to get back to work after the furlough scheme or not. While some are very confident that immediately the furlough scheme is over, they are going back to work and they are going to resume. Some are still working at the moment. Some have even worked through the pandemic. So it's about how you feel about your financial future. To buy the property and taking on a mortgage, it's not just about signing on the dotted lines. It's about a commitment. Some mortgage deals are 32-year commitments. Even now, there are 40-year mortgages. So it's a long-term commitment. So you need to see beyond now. You need to see beyond the excitement of now. You need to see beyond the few paychecks that you're getting now. It's about your future financial situation. Can you sustain the payment of that mortgage? Can you afford it beyond now? Do you think the prospects of you remaining in job, in the next couple of years is still there? What are your plans? your employer. Speak to your employer. Find out what your employer is doing or what your employer intends to do. Or if you're taking some new exams or skills or acquiring new skills, and you're confident about what you're getting yourself into, that your financial future is going to improve. It's all about how you feel about that financial future. If you feel strongly, positive about your financial future, then it's worth taking on the mortgage, because you can afford it, you can pay it. If you don't feel very strongly positive about your future financial situation, you might want to think again about how you can afford this mortgage, or whether this is the right time for you to actually take on such a huge financial obligation. Again, you still have to come up with the deposits, which is where we asked, can you get a mortgage? Getting a mortgage means I have the deposit and I can afford to pay the monthly mortgage for a long time. Okay, folks, so these are the 5 questions that you need to answer before you decide whether you want to buy it now or not. I'm going to recap it again just to save you the stress. First, number 1 question is, can you get a mortgage? Right? Number 2 question is, what's the immediate use of the property? Are you buying it for residential or for investment? And what do you really need it for immediately? Is this something that can wait or something that cannot wait? Right? Number 3 question is the deal you are getting good enough by your own valuation and your research? So you've got a little bit of valuation to do and a little bit of researching to do, and make sure that the deal you are getting is good enough. If it's good enough for you, why you shouldn't. If it's not good enough for you, if that deal is not good enough for you, I don't see why you should get involved in it. So it's about your own assessment of that deal. Number 4 is, what do you stand to lose if you don't buy the property? So that's the opportunity cost of not buying that property. Whatever you stand to lose, weigh it against buying the property and see which one weighs heavier. Number 5 is, are you feeling confident about your future financial situation? So if you're feeling confident about your future financial situation, you're feeling strongly confident, positive about it, then you might want to say, yes, I can take on this, and then you decide to do it. If you're not, you might want to reconsider and see if you need to put it off for some time and make sure that you're comfortable enough to do it. So folks, thank you very much, and I hope this has been useful to you. Please, if this has been useful to you, leave us a comment, give us your feedback, let us know how you feel about this, and we welcome both positive and negative feedbacks, because we want to work on whatever it is that you're not comfortable with this session. But again, you can share the videos. You can look me up on YouTube as well. Just search my name, Ikenna Omezudike. We are constantly uploading content on our YouTube. The ones that you couldn't be part of live on Facebook, we upload them on YouTube, or you can go to my Facebook page and watch backlogs of videos that are there on my Facebook page, and the ones you've missed out. But until then, I'm going to see you again next week on Monday, when we talk about Modesty's Money Masterclass, and next week Wednesday again I'll come back here and talk about another topic on mortgages. So thank you very much. God bless, and do have a lovely day. Bye now.